Thanks. I played that at Jeffrey's house last night and it was terrible, so I wanted to kind of redeem myself a little bit. I'm embracing the spirit of, I think, what Jeffrey said at the beginning, which is the hardest thing is to start. So I've started, and I have to just get through this because I'm making this up. I do this thing where I make keynotes up on the spot, and actually a few people have talked about improvising on the spot, and it's kind of fun. So I thought a nice thing would be to maybe unify similarities, celebrate the differences, and it's Ayola who said that earlier, which I really like that. It's been noted that. I've been noting down a few things. I've been kind of spying. When I go to conferences, I like to just kind of take notes and build bullshit keynotes. And here's one. So, sorry about the swearing, but it's in English accent, so it's fine, apparently. Now, one thing that really suddenly struck a chord with me was two things that Jeremy said. We're all building brain cells in our heads, and some more than others. And that's really about this thing of creating networks literally inside. It also connects to what we just heard about this idea of journaling, of actually being able to almost write a letter to yourself, and in doing so, kind of reprogram the way that you normally have your thought patterns working, which is kind of incredible, really, because it's kind of the most analog thing you can possibly do. Jeremy also said something kind of brilliant, which connects totally to this event, which is that we evolve really through the sharing of stories. So today's been a short, fast, rapid, exponential evolution. Obviously, I'm delaying it and making it longer, but hey, bear with me. Now, of course, he referenced the finches that Darwin notated when he toured to the Galapagos Islands. And at that time, he went on, who knows the name of the ship? The HMS Beagle, please. Her Majesty's ship, the Beagle. I know you've got liberty and all that, but, you know, whatever. I'm not saying it. I want to say it. I'm not saying it. It's going well, isn't it? Anyway, this is Charles Darwin with his son. And in those days in Victorian England, one dressed baby boys as little girls. It's true, absolutely true. We do today as well, just for laughs, but in those days it was actually considered culturally appropriate. Now this man is James Fitzroy. Now Fitzroy was actually the captain of the Beagle, and he had been on a voyage prior to Darwin being involved, where he had felt so isolated that he realized he needed companionship. Intellectual companionship, scientific companionship. This guy was a major geek, and he loved science, and he was also very religious, as was Charles Darwin, bizarrely enough. Now, he asked for Darwin to join him on the voyage, knowing that they could have discourses about religion, philosophy, they could pray together, and they could do science together. What people might not know about him is that in discovering the idea of the survival of the fittest and adaptation to the environment, it really threw a spanner in the works of his own religion, because he realized that Darwin was right. Darwin lost his faith. And also, he could not live with himself, with the fact that he had scientifically proven that the church's teachings were wrong. He committed suicide. Now, at that time, if one committed suicide, it's self-murder. One would not have a Christian burial. I mean, it's the worst thing that can ever happen to anybody, let alone the people around them. In those days, can you imagine? Can you imagine the pressures on an educated man to go to that point? But in those days, mental illness wasn't something that you treated. It's something you paid money to go and look at, point and laugh at, and then go home again. Bethlehem Hospital, where we get the name Bedlam from, was actually a place you paid money to go and stare at people who were unwell. It was a spectator sport. And don't worry, it's going to get happier, to quote Linnea, because I just wanted to bring it to that point that actually this is nothing new, but you guys are finding a much better way of dealing with it, and you're building strategies to deal with it. So back to Darwin. He was looking at these finches and realizing there's adaptation for the environment. And he had these great notebooks, and here's one. Today I'm just going to draw some birds that I see. There's number 1 and number 2. Number 3, he lost the plot. Honestly, it just got crazy. seriously. He kept amazing journals. This is his book list, Things What I Must Read, which really connects us to what Latonia was talking about, with this idea of being worth writing for. Everyone's worth writing for. And Darwin sought refuge in this because not only was it the place that he developed one of the greatest, most radical theories ever to come out of a brain, those collections of cells and synapses that we've heard so much about today, but also it's a place where he could actually talk to himself, because the guy was pretty much isolated. He was isolated by society and by religion, by the church. This is one of his diagrams, and this is basically his theory of how evolution has branches within it. Now, this is one of the most important pages anywhere, and it's just kind of tucked away amongst literally some shopping lists. It's just incredible. Now, we all have evolution in different ways. Some of us will evolve inside, and some of us will evolve through the mask and the costumes that we wear, and I just love it. And I think Charles hasn't stopped. I think what we're seeing now, this MX man, I think that's just stage 4. I think stage 5 is gonna be insane. Charles is coming back next year, and we're not gonna recognize him, I know it. Anyway, something else I noticed, that in Darwin's sketches, he was drawing these amazing sort of mollusks and claws and stuff, and I thought they looked rather like what we saw on stage this morning. I'd like to claim that I drew this, but I didn't. This is actually by a great friend of mine called David Yakos, who actually is... Oh, he's not there. There he is. Where's David Yakos? Where are you, David? He's just there, and I just ripped this off the internet, because anyway, that's him. And he's written at the top of this, I am a shaper of destiny. I don't think he's mansplaining that. I think he's actually taken that directly from what Jose said, which is fantastic. Now, do you remember what's so with about Jose is this thing that he actually went from somebody who literally was on the floor. I mean, how demeaning is that? Just incredible. Pulled himself up, has become so incredibly educated. But that thing of actually becoming kind of in communion with the cat is something that just stuck in my head. And then when Devon showed this amazing picture of Robot Baby, I thought, oh, I like that link, because that's a kind of evolution. And then we've seen others, because actually Devon also introduced this idea of the dinosaur. He said it much better than me, but the dinosaur evolution machine. You send your T-Rex, I wish I could do the actions that he did. I just don't have the acting skills. I'm sorry, mate. You send the T-Rex in one side and you get a bird flying out of the other. And we can all fly in our own ways, and obviously this is Ayola's photo, but when Arminio said this, when your anatomy changes, then your mind changes too, which I think is kind of incredible. Another important point, if you want to change physically, accept that invitation to ride. Beautiful inked lady as well, fantastic brain, and what a message. But also, what I loved about what Len said, that you can change using your hands, and that can be something, you know, his story of Take My Hands, where you completely turn something around through a physical and a mental kind of lateral jump. Now, just to finish up with, here's another man who uses hands, so you just heard him speak. What you might not know about Mark Brand's tattoos is he's got that on one hand, and he forgot to get the other hand inked, which I think is rather lovely. Now, to finish with, I would just like to quickly put together a piece that pulls all of those things together very badly. The person I haven't mentioned is Neil, who's incredible, so I thought I'd take Neil's OCD that he talked about so amazingly in that poem, and I'll take OCD as being notes of a piece of music, if that's okay, plus the little clickiness of Devon's evolution machine. Maybe take the idea of Take My Hands as a rhythm, da-da-da. You have to take my word for it. I could explain all this, but we all need a drink. Right? Am I right? It's very short as well, this piece. The more I talk, the longer it's getting. And finally, the whole point is you're all worth writing for, so I would have written this, but I haven't had time, so I'm just going to make this thing up, okay? And it's basically, we're going to call it Peace Brings Me Love. And I'm going to sit down and play that, then I'm going to get it off, and we're going to have a drink and a workshop. Okay, thank you very much.